A suit filed by California and several other states has opened the door for states to adopt their own net neutrality regulations. Tuesday, a D.C. federal appeals court upheld the Trump administration's 2017 move to repeal net neutrality, but ruled that FCC had overstepped its authority when it barred states from adopting their own policies.
Joining us to discuss the implications and what this could mean for the net neutrality fight is Gigi Sohn. She previously served as counselor to the former chairman of the Federal Communications Commission and is a Benton Senior Fellow and Public Advocate. Gigi?
Great to be here.
Thanks for being here, Gigi. Tell us what this means. What is the implications of this court case?
So there's several implications, and it's a very multi-layered decision. It's 184 pages, but basically the court, for the most part, upheld the FCC's repeal of the net neutrality rules. It sent back to the FCC a couple issues you have to work out: the impact on public safety, the impact on broadband subsidies for poor people. But for the most part, it upheld the repeal. So net neutrality, the net neutrality rules do not exist. However, and this is critically important, what the FCC tried to do in its repeal is to say no state can pass a law that puts net neutrality in place in their state. We are preempting those states from doing so. And the court said, The court said, if you, FCC, have decided to abdicate your oversight of broadband, you can't also tell the states that they can't regulate broadband.
So one question here is, I think you need to have to explain for the viewers, net neutrality is one of those things that get played around. What actually does it mean when states are trying to pass their own net neutrality regulations?
So California has passed a net neutrality law, which is now being held in abeyance, partly because of the pendency of this lawsuit. And what it does is it basically readopts the 2015 Open Internet Order, in which I had a role when I was at the FCC. And what that order did two things. Number one, it adopted the net neutrality rules that prohibit broadband internet service providers from blocking, throttling, or otherwise discriminating against any content, service, or application, particularly if they own a competing application. But it's across the board prohibition on discrimination, allowing consumers to control their own internet experience. But secondly, and this is more important, what the 2015 order did was it reasserted the FCC's ability to regulate the broadband market, which had been taken away in 2002. So the repeal reversed that. So the FCC said, you know what, we're no longer going to regulate the broadband market, sayonara, net neutrality rules, goodbye. We'll let the Federal Trade Commission and the antitrust authorities take care of any problems.
Have we seen any throttling or any discrimination going on recently?
So there's already been two studies out of Northeastern University that have shown that mobile broadband providers have been throttling video providers like Netflix and Hulu and others at all times of day, whether or not there's congestion. So there is some evidence. But I think,
why are they doing that? Just to save money, or are they trying to extract fees out of
Well,
Hulu,
I think it's probably a little bit of both, right? It's financial. Sometimes it has to do with competition. But I think focusing on the throttling and blocking is not the important point. I think the more important point is what has happened since the FCC said, sorry, we're not going to oversee the broadband market. And there's several examples, too, which I'll point out quickly. Is number one, Verizon was throttling the broadband of California firefighters last year during the Mendocino Complex fire. And the firefighters, they had no place to go, right? They couldn't file a complaint with the FCC. They couldn't file a complaint with the FTC. So they landed up paying Verizon 2.5 times more than they were paying before. So they would stop the throttling during a major forest fire. Secondly, it was discovered by Vice, by reporters at Vice, that mobile broadband carriers were taking the precise geolocation of their customers and selling it to data brokers who then sold it to bounty hunters, right? And bounty hunters' entire purpose is to find people like domestic violence victims and others that don't want to be found.
Right.
What did the FCC do about it? Nothing, right? So the fact that they've said, you know, we're not going to see whether consumers or competition are being harmed, that's where the harm has come in the little more than a year that net neutrality has not been in effect.
Gigi, thank you so much for joining us. Really interesting.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. We'll have more Rising for you right after this.